All right, guys, welcome back to Dude Ranch DIY. We are out here on a Saturday, Chris and I. Chris is running the International hook lift truck. We are trying something new today in an attempt to try to alleviate or minimize some bottlenecks. The whole name of the game in Firewood is, you know, productivity, speed, and with the ever-evolving equipment we have here on Dude Ranch DIY, we've been blessed to have this beautiful East-made 2228 with the attached conveyor. We need to evolve with, you know, the equipment as our process evolves. So we're trying something new today. I think you can probably figure out what it is, but there's a special surprise that at the end that we'll talk about later. Okay, guys, we got everything in place. East-made's all warmed up. Just got a fire going in the oil tank here to start burning up some of this scrap. But basically, what we're doing here is we've determined that one of the bottlenecks is the fact that we can fill up a tote so fast, but then we have to go pick up the pieces that fell on the ground, stack them on the top, put the top on, pull the tote out, bring in a fresh tote. That whole process takes about 10 minutes, I'd say, for one person to do. What we're thinking about here is just filling up the dumpster can, you know, as much as we can. You know, today we'll probably just get through this ash, at least in this video. And then I'm thinking, because the dumpster can is so low to the ground, I'm able to drive into it with the tractor, and we take the pallet forks off, put on the bucket for now, just our standard, you know, tractor bucket, and scoop out of the dumpster can and have 4 totes arranged in a square. And I'm thinking we could just fill the totes off, you know, fill them up like that. And that might be faster than having to swap out a tote, you know, every 10 or so minutes, and then take 10 or so minutes to swap out said tote. If this works, then I would be interested in potentially purchasing like a big skeleton bucket or one of the big tool rack, you know, dedicated firewood buckets that can hold a lot more and that have holes for like the fines and stuff to drop down through. Be another level of filtration. And from the calculations that I've done, one of those like 75-inch firewood buckets is like over 1/3 of a cord loose per scoop. So if we had 4 of these totes lined up, you know, arranged in a square, I think we could fill them up pretty fast and then be able to get them out of here. Also, the reason we're doing this is now that the Cormidi is gone, we're not going to have a machine with pallet forks and a grapple simultaneously. So the tractor is going to be pulling double duty, and to have to switch back and forth from the pallet forks to the grapple is kind of a pain. Yeah, I know we could use the forks to pull logs out of the pile, but let's face it, anybody that's used a grapple, it's a lot easier to pull logs out of a pile with a grapple than it is pallet forks, especially when it comes time to laying them down on our cutting table here, our makeshift cutting table. You know, the logs just kind of roll off, they can go over the other side. It's just not as precise. So in an attempt to maximize productivity, that's what we're going to be doing here today. Let me know what you guys think of this process down below. We got the other cameraman here. What do you think?
I think it's a viable solution for our new little bottleneck.
Yeah.
It'll be really interesting to see exactly.
That's a good tripod.
Yeah, exactly how productive more productive it'll make us.
Yeah, I mean, it could work out. It definitely could not work out. I think it would work better if we had a larger bucket, but this is just kind of a trial run to see if our theory would work. So with that, let's get splitting.
Let's do it.
right, guys, that is it. Left a couple pieces here because these are kind of gnarly crotch pieces, and this one has a big wedge cut out of it, so I'll save that you know, to split up with this with the 6-way or the tall 4-way for my own burning. But we started at just before, I think it was like 11:57, and it is now 1:03, and as you can see, we got a bunch of wood up in the back of the dumpster can. Now, it's not totally filled, obviously. We need, if we're gonna, you know, keep doing this, which just based on how much wood we just got split in an hour, I think we will. We're gonna have to dig out this area a little bit, maybe get that rock moved and make a little bit more room to fit the dumpster can in, so we can, you know, as we're working, start from the front and pull it forward to fill it up evenly. We were just kind of pushing stuff around with the hard rake over there, but we got a lot of wood split up in a pretty short amount of time, and that was kind of the goal here. As I said, this Eastimate 2228 is so productive. On average, like working by myself, just feeding the log lift myself, I can fill up a tote in about, you know, as little as 7 minutes and as much as like 12 to 15 minutes if the wood is really small diameter. But the bigger the rounds, the faster it generally goes, because obviously you're spending less time loading up the log lift. And therefore, you know, spending less time swapping out full totes for empty totes. So we got a bunch of wood in there to test out. Chris has been hard at work. Man, it's great having a guy like Chris. He knows exactly what to do without me even saying. He got the totes out here all arranged up in, like, you know, 4x4 or 2x2. He has been pulling out all of the ash totes. Well, before he started pulling out the ash totes, came over here, cleaned up all the scraps, got the area where the brute force processor was all cleaned up, leveled back out, and started moving the ash totes over here. I thought this would be a good area for the ash totes for now, just to keep them separate. And you know, because this is the stuff that's going to be going out the rest of the winter, is the ash. Nothing else is really going to be ready. We really don't have that much ash left in this pile, so I'm hoping that you know, we can get some more in as the course of the winter goes on. But this area looks great. I think he's been going around even with the paint marker and marking the dates. I think that this area looks great now that it's cleaned up. It's a lot more room for storage, so I think it'll work out good here with the ash. You know, if we don't get more ash in, we have this big dead ash right here that this branch broke out of the other day. There was like a shatter storm over here, and then we actually have another one right up in here that's dead, and that's all standing dead. You know, I've been leaving them there for a rainy day when we're gonna need, you know, more dry ash. And I don't know, if enough wood gets out of the wood yard and we rearrange it, we might have some room to drop those puppies.
We might.
Yeah. So
we might just be in need for those too. We haven't been getting any ash in our dump loads.
Right, exactly. So I think now the plan is to test kind of phase 2 of this whole new bottleneck alleviation plan. You know, we're always innovating here at Dude Ranch DIY. We're at the forefront of innovation in the firewood industry. Don't quote me on that. But we are now going to pull the dumpster can out from underneath the conveyor and test out loading the totes just with our regular bucket. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Let's do it.
All right.
All right. Picking her up. Oh, there he goes. Okay, so that was pretty good. Obviously, you know, it's gonna make some divots in the asphalt millings, but that's no big deal.
Fuck that one up. I didn't take the chain off.
But because we were loading more towards the back of the can instead of the front, when we opened up the door, obviously all this wood fell out, which is preventing me from getting the bottom of the bucket, even with the bottom of the dumpster can, to be able to come in on a smooth surface and scoop. So I'm not really going to factor in this time right now, because I feel like this could be avoided in the future. You know, obviously that's a consideration, but I just want to get this stuff cleaned up, out of the way, and then we'll see how easily I'm able to scoop wood. Okay, guys, so let's do a little breakdown here. Now, keep in mind, this was the first time we were doing this.
Yes. Simply proof of concept.
Yes, very much proof of concept. We were using a 64-inch stock Kubota bucket. We just did the math. 64 inches wide, 19 inches tall, 19 inches deep. 64 times 19 times 19 equals some value divided by 1,728 gives us the cubic inches to cubic foot conversion. That conversion came out to 13 cubic feet is what this bucket holds. That being said, we were able to unload the whole dumpster can, and this time is after I threw the wood into the bucket and got it off the ground so that I could, start going in from the bottom of the can, right?
Yep.
That came out to 21 minutes and 55 seconds it took to unload that wood, which filled up 4 large totes and 2/3 of a small tote, which is pretty good. I mean, I think we were saying that generally to swap out a full tote for an empty tote, if we were being generous, 8 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes. So let's be generous and say that to swap out 5 totes times 8, granted we didn't fill this one, but just to swap it out, we would have had to swap, 5 times, right? So 5 times 8 is 40. So that would have taken 40 minutes of time to pull out the totes and swap them. So, I mean, we arguably did it in a little more than half of that time.
Correct.
Being at 22 minutes.
The only thing that we don't take into consideration right now, as far as all that timing goes, is moving the truck,
Right.
swapping the forks to the bucket, now back from the bucket to the forks.
Right.
Right. We're to one machine.
Yeah, we're down to one machine, but all that being said, okay, so let's say that pulling the truck out, backing the truck in takes a minute each time. Swapping out the bucket to the forks takes another minute. So that's an extra 3 minutes. So we just saved ourselves roughly, let's say, 17 minutes. And that's being generous, at 8 minutes per swap. The reason it takes us 8 minutes is because we're trying to maximize how much we get in these totes. Normally, I'm sure you've seen in the videos, because I try to show it. We try to be as honest as we can with you guys. We're learning just, like you guys are learning. So every time we swap it out, we like to take the wood, kind of stack it like this in a teepee. That way we could put the top on, put the top right with the paint marker and everything. So that takes time. It's not like we're just yanking out a tote from underneath the grizzly bars and plop it in an empty one. If we were just doing that, I'm sure it would work, but then the wood, wouldn't have a cover on it. We wouldn't be maximizing how much wood we got in there, which I think is valuable. So the other thing to consider here is that the firewood bucket I was looking at, I'll put a picture of it right here, was the 75-inch XL firewood bucket made by Big Tool Rack. Now, the measurements on that, I believe, if memory serves me correctly, it came out to 80 cubic feet in one bucket. Now, the bucket is obviously a lot bigger. It's a skeleton bucket. I don't know if this tractor would be able to handle it. I think the bucket alone is like 600 pounds, so it might be too big for this tractor, but they make smaller ones. They make a 75-inch non-XL, but now that we've done this and we see that this is 13 cubic feet, I think now I can go back on the website and maybe pick a bucket if we choose to go this route that's more appropriately sized for this tractor. A 75-inch one might be better suited for a skid steer or something. But I think the important lesson here is that we learned that this proof of concept can work.
Yeah.
There's definitely ways to improve it. The tractor easily was able to go up in there. I mean, I even learned that, as I needed to drive into the can to get the wood in the front, I was putting the loader in float as the tractor was riding up, the back edge, because that is a lot easier than using the hydraulics to try and, you know, guesstimate that height differential. And then once the front tires of the tractor were in there, I popped it out afloat and scooped up, and I was, you know, able to get pretty full bucket loads. The other thing you pointed out was the scrap, you know.
Yep.
If we had a skeleton bucket, I think a lot of that fine material that falls, you know, just rubs off the wood anyway, that would go naturally to the bottom of the dumpster can, again, would fall out with a skeleton bucket where it wasn't here. So I'm curious to know what you guys think about what we just did here. I've never seen anybody do this. I mean, I've seen people load trucks with skeleton buckets.
And load from bulk bins.
Out of bulk
things.
bins and piles and stuff. I've never seen anybody load out of a dumpster can because we don't have a bulk bin, obviously. So we're kind of using the dumpster can as a mobile bulk bin. And I've never seen anybody load into totes. They're usually loading, you know, before delivery. So let us know in the comments below, because like I said, we're all learning, and a lot of the time we implement the ideas that you guys have, because, you know, we're only 4 eyeballs and 2 brains, you know, so
maybe 1.5.
You said it, not me. I stopped myself there. I don't know who's the half, but you know, you guys obviously, some of you have a lot more, you know, many years more experience than we do and stuff. So all input is greatly appreciated. That being said,
we make the mistakes here so you guys don't have to. It
Yeah.
allows us to kind of figure out our process and streamline things. While this might seem like a waste of time, this is proven to be possible and to be able to improve our process once we kind of get into the groove of things.
Yeah.
Much like going from the RuggedMade into a tote, or the tote to, you know, a
conveyor,
or a conveyor. Yeah. You know,
So
everything we do, we wind up streamlining just a little bit, and it helps with the time in the long run.
Right. I mean, we can't leave well enough alone. We're always innovating. You know, like I said before, Dude Ranch DIY is at the forefront of firewood innovation.
The forefront.
The forefront. You know, just like Easton-made wood splitters is the forefront of innovation in firewood splitting equipment. So that being said, give us your feedback down below. That's going to wrap this one up. I do think that this whole process went a lot faster. We were able to split a lot more wood in a shorter amount of time. We did all that wood in about an hour, which is good. Normally, you know, if we were swapping things out, I think we say we normally do about a cord an hour.
Yeah.
You know, if you're cutting and I'm splitting, which you weren't helping me split at all. So I think that's accurate. So I think we got some potential here. As always, guys, if you liked the video, give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, click that subscribe button down below. We're killing it, guys. The analytics are off the charts. I mean, I know it's November, so there's a lot of ad revenue and stuff for the holidays, but views are up. Tell your friends, subscribe if you haven't already. We've gotten a lot of new viewers, which is great. But for now, I'm Jake.
And I'm Chris.
This is Dude Ranch DIY. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you here next time. I think that worked pretty good. And I think it can only work better with purpose-built firewood bucket.